Well, hello, everybody. It's great to see you. I'm sorry for canceling last night. Had some issues that had to be resolved immediately, but thank you for being with me here today. Let me say hello, first of all, to European Lore. Thank you, my good friend, for jumping on short notice. How are you doing?
West Tuha, my friend. I am glorious. I'm great. Thank you very much.
Great to have you. You've been putting out some videos. You were on fire, and I like a lot of your takes. I really do. Let me reach out, of course, to Alasia, ATroubledGreen. What did you think of your deepfakes? I thought I did pretty well.
You did do good. I'm still getting used to that. I think I spotted most of mine.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, well done. Yeah, they're weird, but yeah, they're cool. What else to say?
I expected you to give me a whole bunch of flack for the ones I did from Twilight, but I guess
Well, I'm
maybe.
just like I've accepted that people are gonna give me flack. I do have to say I hate the movies. The movies are garbage. I just love the books, but I love the books for deeply, deeply personal
Right.
reasons that I don't go
Sure.
shouting from the rooftops. So
No.
but yeah, so but I the girl with the bow and arrow? What was that?
No, that's the
Okay.
one and only purple Valkyrie, actually.
Okay. All right. I was really confused. I was like, is that me?
Yes, that's Aloy from the Horizon Zero Dawn.
Okay.
Absolutely. We have 31 people with us today on short notice. I am honored. It's really great to see all of you, and welcome back those who hung out with us when we had ass on a couple days ago. That was an amazing experience. I hope we get to do it again. And that video, I think, is getting close to 7,000 views. So
Well done.
you all are absolutely amazing. Hail to you, Lyle Hammock. It's great to see you, my channel member. We also have Rosie Gamgees. We have, we've got the Untamed Life, who, yes, thank you. I made you a mod without asking. Thanks for doing that. We have Mystery Man in Monsters. Great to see you. We've got Boban Grocek, who says 12 out of 10 for the intro. We have our good friend Sil Abdul. Brother, whenever you want to do something, let's do something. I would love to hang out with you. And happy belated birthday to Sil Abdul.
Yes, happy birthday, love. He had a fantastic stream yesterday. Really, really happy for him. He is, like everybody else, doing incredibly well. So very, very proud of him.
And hail to Cajun Corey Rourke, my buddy who likes to give our good friend Maxfield Von Priestley, who's indisposed at the moment, grief on his Monday Night Man Cave show. Hail to Shield Wall of Dragons. Hail to Arkansas. It's great to see everybody here. And we've got our good friend Nathan Amanda Manethrin, who will be with us next week on the panel, which I am looking forward to. Well, again, thank you to everybody. And of course, the Thad that shouldn't be, who is the lore expert who I expect to give us a lot of grief during the show today. Let's not bury the lead, guys. One of the things that I really wanted to talk about was this response by Viggo Mortensen to what Amazon is doing to a Tolkien property. I know, European Lore, you dropped a scathing video this morning on it. What is your snap take on this? And then we'll pivot to Purple and Alasia, because we've all read this article.
It is nothing less than I have expected from Viggo Mortensen, from what I know about him. That he's a very approachable guy and a very professional actor. And I haven't really expected that he would be involved in making the show, or that he would actually give a damn about it. He's got, after all, as I said in the video, much better things to do than to concern himself with the Rings of Power, like we people who cover it on YouTube, because he actually has a life.
Yeah, and let me do this. I just want to say hello to someone who just subscribed to me, who was lighting up the live stream the other night. That would, of course, be Rosie Ganji. This is an individual who has remarkable excuse me, Tolkien lore and appreciation. I am sorry that I missed you. And I also want to say hello to Faye. And I need to scroll back. And we also have Pops in here. I don't want to leave anybody hanging. None of it's deliberate. It's just when you having a live show, the chat moves really quick. So
yeah, and streamer brain is totally a thing.
It is especially true. And hail to Jacob Arkenside as well. I can speak English. Ironside. We got our first super chat. Let me get to this one. This is from Vic Rattlehead in again. a good friend of ours. This is for 40 Indian rupees. He says, greetings. Stream was very cool. May Govind. There we are. This is fantastic. Yeah, that was a fantastic stream, you guys. And I've been getting some interesting comments in my comment section. And let me know in the chat now if you don't mind. People were critical of me rolling the Lord of the Rings clip during the ad stream. And I eventually stopped doing that because it was kind of derailing some of our time. But do you all like when during the live shows I give a Lord of the Rings video after every clip, or do you think I should maybe give one after a couple different super chats? Put F's in the chat right now if you want one of my Lord of the Rings clips after every super chat or not. Put an N if you're okay with not seeing it. So I just want to give you guys something to do.
Can I give a third option?
Oh boy.
I think we just need more Nick Cage.
Can I give a fourth option?
You guys see what I have to do, and of course, because it was asked for, here you go.
Oh no, not the beast! Not the beast! Ah!
And that will be the only appearance of that clip in this show because I have to keep Purple Valkyrie. I have to keep Purple Valkyrie happy, if we're honest about it. So hail to you guys. Yeah, let me know. And of course, I closed my own article down because I know what I'm doing as a streamer. But yeah, what was your guys' reaction? I know, Alasia, let's start with you since you're a guest on the show. What was your reaction to this? His language, it's like they caught him off guard because he was talking about something else. And then what he literally, this is Viggo Mortensen, what he literally said, was, quote, what is that? A TV thing?
Yeah.
It's on Apple or something? And it's like, yeah. And they told him that it was this $1 billion Lord of the Rings thing. And he's like, quote, oh yeah, right. I'll watch that. But do you know what source material they're using? What were they allowed to use? That was Viggo Mortensen saying this. And the journalist told him that it was set with some of Aragorn's ancestors, obviously, who played in Peter Jackson's trilogy. And he said, quote, oh yeah, that's cool. That'll be fun to see. Not exactly the resounding affirmation that you want from someone who really did create the iconography for those who didn't read the books and have only seen the movies. But Alasia, what's your take on this with Viggo Mortensen's reaction to this?
The fact that he had the wherewithal, they threw this at him, and that he had the wherewithal. I mean, I know this is edited. We don't have the video, so we don't know the full conversation probably. But the fact that he came back immediately with what's their source material tells me, one, he still cares to this day, and the fact that they didn't give him the full truth.
Yeah,
they didn't say exactly what they have the rights to. They failed to mention those 22 made up characters. So it'd be interesting if he does watch it, if anyone comes back to him after the fact and they ask him what he thought, what he thinks. I know nothing about the man. I'm not someone who goes and Googles actors. It just feels invasive to me. I won't Google people. I don't care how famous they are. So I know nothing about this man beyond the fact that he did Lord of the Rings and Hidalgo and that Russian film. So, I mean, I think it's pretty cool that he was like, yeah, what's their source material? Like, he asked the important questions straight out of the gate, and they to me beat around the bush. So, it would be interesting if he sees it and if they get to talk to him again, what his take is after the fact.
Yeah. Purple, what's your take on this thing?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with what you guys are saying. I think he seemed to get a little bit blindsided by that. I think they were expecting him to know all about this, $1 billion Amazon debacle that's going on. But clearly he's not interested. He's very proud of the work that he did with Lord of the Rings, but he's moved on since then. But he's asking the questions that even the super fans haven't asked, what's the source material?
And I've read some anecdotal articles that said the whole reason he took Aragorn was because his kids said, Dad, you got to play Aragorn. And there were multiple other people set to play Aragorn. And we have to be honest about it. One of them was Nick Cage. It's a true story. Daniel Day-Lewis was also one of the top picks to play Aragorn. Could you imagine that? Could you imagine Viggo Mortensen not being Aragorn? Yeah, it's interesting. This is interesting, and I don't see this, adding to what it is that would build a positive perception of what's
Hmm.
going on with the Lord of the Rings at all. Let me jump around here a little bit. And what I've been seeing, and I really want you guys to be honest and call me to the mat on this in chat as well, it really seems like we are getting a continual managing down of expectations when it comes to
Hmm.
the Rings of Power. Now, that's a very qualitative statement, but let me address it in a quantitative way. We got the article of Sean Astin talking about how no one can ever take away the original Peter Jackson movies. What were some other sources of information that we've been seeing from anyone out there regarding managing this down? What have you all seen?
Well, recently we've been seeing a lot of the fan sites and the fan podcasts talking about they're excited, but they is this going to be the huge spectacle that they thought it was going to be? No, I know I've seen some of them saying, well, series don't really hit their stride until the third season.
Hmm.
So,
Yes.
yeah, I mean, that was the quote I was really looking for. And I think that was the onering.net. European
it
Lore, do you
was.
remember
Yes.
that? Yeah, European Lore, do you remember that? And I just could not believe what I was hearing. George the Giant Slayer did a really good video yesterday on it and I think it was yesterday. The days kind of run together. But he was talking about the same thing where imagine telling people that you have to sit through 2 crappy seasons of television with things that you don't recognize and pretend that this is the Lord of the Rings, because maybe by season 3 you'll be brainwashed to think it's Lord of the Rings. Is that an unfair take, you guys? European Lore, what's your take on that?
No, I think that some people are very good at having power over other people, and the hearts of men are very easily swayed. So
Oh,
by men, I mean the Old English meaning of the word man, which is a human being. So for a normie, by which I mean a human being who is not versed in the lore of Tolkien's books, sure, why not? I believe strongly and firmly that there will be people who in the future will be connecting the show, Amazon's show, very, very closely with The Lord of the Rings. That's the sad truth of it.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And is that by design, do you think, that they are purposely trying to downplay what Peter Jackson did with Tolkien's work before this? So the Amazon Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power, still hate that title, is the only
Yeah.
thing in people's minds?
Yeah, it is also a very good tactics in a real life wars when you know that you are weaker than the enemy and that you
Yep.
can't defeat your enemy with your sheer strength and power. You try to do it in another way. You try to downgrade the enemy or in the eyes of people around him.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's propaganda. We may have
Yeah.
been seeing a lot of that lately, if you know what I mean. Let me get to this super chat from the Thad that shouldn't be, one of my Taveran, good friend, drives me crazy sometimes, but Matt's great to see you. It's for $2 says he wants a 5th option, Sophia Loren clips all the time. I can't argue with that, but I'm not sure everybody would get it, but
I could get behind that.
I could get behind that. I could get in a lot of ways and on top of that. But yeah, absolutely. And I'll tell you what, the Thad that shouldn't be, I know you like the Lord of the Rings clips. I am going to let's give you this one.
We travel light. That is handsome walk.
Hail to you again, the Thad that shouldn't be, and I am without a Zaxx, so thank you all for being patient with me because I'm doing 3 things at once. And hail to everybody who's modding, including Purple Valkyrie, Alasia, and Untamed Mando, everybody who's in chat, Cajun Corey Rourke. It's greatly appreciated. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to belabor this point. We know they're going to compress the timeline. This article talks about use of the Silmarillion, but we don't believe they have use of the Silmarillion, and I'm like, I don't know where they're going with this story, but I will say this, and I cannot violate confidences. And I was not the only one that heard that from someone, but this is going to essentially follow the same path Wheel of Time did, guys. And this is from people who may have seen things. And soap opera.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah.
And the whole point of this show, you know, you'd think would be to grasp people from the very minute that, you know, it starts. You want to get people's attention. You want to get people on board as quick as possible. That a show like this should not have a slow burn. And the fact that they are now telling people to, you know, kind of dial back your expectations and just kind of stick with it, guys.
You know what this kind of reminds me of is, again, I didn't watch Game of Thrones, never read the books, but it was, you had to be living under a rock to not see the fallout from what season, how it ended. I think it's season 8. This almost sounds like they're setting us up for that. Like this is going to end horribly because we literally don't know what to do.
Only without the good 4 seasons of television. They're just going to go right to the trash part. And again, for those of you who watched Wheel of Time, and I know European Lore, you were riding that doomed train too. You got the first couple episodes, you're like, okay, this doesn't look right. Moiraine is crazy. These characters ran through the, you know, diversity hiring practices. I can live with all those things, right? It's just they don't sound like the characters. They don't look like the characters. They're not doing what the characters should be doing. And the dialogue is like we're watching Batwoman, only it's in a cheap-looking fantasy surroundings, you know? I would love if this was not the case, but there are let's just say very large YouTubers who may have been talking to us, and without giving a lot away, manage your expectations way lower than you expected, and I think you'll be right there. Now, is that fair, Purple? Is that fair, European Lore?
I have heard a very specific description of the first episode from a very big YouTuber. It was done on a live stream. It was public, but I will not mention it here because it's not that, you know, necessary. And from what I heard, I don't care really. I'm at the point when I would like to be in the same situation as Viggo Mortensen is, but I have I have my channel, so I can't. But from what I heard, I was feeling mortified. I really was feeling disgusted to my stomach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and again, you know, I'd mentioned it earlier when we all saw it, and we can take that clip that you have and then we'll bounce to the books, but Faye nails it here. Where all of those Tolkien fan sites that went, this was Amazon's next clumsy stumble. They brought these people in, they signed them to what I perceived to be a pretty ironclad NDA. They all went out, they all ran down the same approved bullet point list, and they didn't even last 5 minutes before the fans went after them and called them out on what they're doing. And like I said, I was immediately blocked by one. There was a live stream out there, and I'll actually share it with you guys because this is the one I made a video about the other day. The ratio on that and I am not attacking anyone. I am simply, again, pointing out metrics, pointing out reality here. The Fellowship of the Fans one was ratioed to hell in back. Here we go. I'll pull it up. And this is the one that I got nuked out of, and they removed my comments from the live stream. Now, look at that ratio now. 314 to 100, and you know, we're not having it. It's not working, Amazon. You know, it's really not. What's your take on this? Have you experienced anything like this? European Lore, Alasia, Purple Valkyrie? Have you gone to any of these other Tolkien sites and watched some of the videos and tried to ask questions? Have you been blocked like I was and then removed from history?
Sorry, I have never ever in my life watched any Tolkien YouTuber because I have not felt the need. I know enough myself. But I have been engaging in a Twitter conversation with the chair himself, the chair of the Tolkien Society, and found out some interesting things.
Yeah. Let's pull it up, and I'm going to let you guys. Take it. I need to deal with something really quick, so I'll let you vamp. I'll be back in 10 seconds.
All right. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just gonna kind of jump in and say I've seen pretty much the same thing, and it's a very kind of defensive take that they've taken with people who are just simply asking questions to begin with. They weren't even calling them out and calling them shills. You know, they just wanted to see, are you being genuine? Did you really enjoy the stuff that you've seen? Can you give us hope? And it all kind of backfired.
I'm sorry. I didn't hear you for a second there.
Oh, just saying that a lot of the people that initially kind of contacted these sites weren't doing it to call them out. They were just doing it out of curiosity to see, you know, did they genuinely like what they've seen? Are they really being honest? But it was a very defensive response that they were given.
Well, of course, they can't be honest, you know. They must have signed some sort of contract, or you know, written thing that they can't really say anything specific, and they mentioned that they can only mention the vibe, and of course that the vibe they are talking about will always have to be positive.
Yeah. Well, in the other part too, let me get to this super chat and let's continue this, because I don't think enough people are pointing this out. This is from a good friend of this channel, one of my channel members, Lyle Hammock. Hail to you, Mrs. Hammock and the little Hammock, for $20. Thank you. Says, Hail, I want to bring up this point since you mentioned Viggo. Peter Jackson changed Aragorn massively by completely changing Isildur's history and character in order to make him not want the throne. Fair point. Let me go ahead and let's speak to that. I know this could turn into a very long conversation, and Lyle's right. European lore, I'll let you speak to this first.
Well, actually, I can shill one of my own videos now. If you go to my channel, you can find a list of videos, a video list where I compare the books with the movies and what Peter Jackson changed. And there's one specific video about Aragorn and the comparison between his film version and his book version, but it's actually under the video The Mouth of Sauron. And I was talking about the fact that in the books, of course, Aragorn was much more regal, much more kingly, much more proud of the fact that he's the heir to the throne of Gondor, and that he was actually bearing the shards of Narsil with him from the very beginning of the Fellowship of the Ring, whereas in the films he was only given the reforged Anduril by Elrond in the last movie. But the film Aragorn, this who is more of a strider than Elessar, fit the film version more, because films should be more action-packed and should speak to more broader audience. And if we look at what kind of character is the most popular among the wide audience, if we are talking about a male character, it's really this John Wayne action hero who is more rugged, you know, who doesn't take any questions, and who's more badass than regal, shall we say. So it fit more in the films than in the books.
Yes, Peter Jackson did make changes. There were some time compressions, such as when Gandalf went off to go and research whether or not it was the Ring of Power. He was gone for 17 years, not for, say, months tops, you know, but that's because of compression time's sake. And it depends on how pure you want to get into the lore. And I know for me, just in my experience, I loved Peter Jackson's works. Obviously, there were some changes made. The extended editions, I think, are masterpieces, and I wonder why they don't release them in the theaters, because you would talk about a $1 billion box office. I am absolutely convinced of it. And I think part of the reason they're not doing that is because they don't want to show that nobody wants the ideological trash that we're getting today, but that's an editorial comment.
Well, when they did release them at the theater down the road from me, they did one a month, and I got to see the extended cuts for the first time in theater. Every single night, every single seat was taken. They were packed. So it was like it was a a separate company that did that, and the tickets were only $7. But they did release them here in Albuquerque, and I will tell you, every night that theater was packed.
I wish they would have done it here. I would have saw them over and over and over again. And Lyle Hammock, you are in very good company. Nathan, who is on our live streams every other week, the man with the hobbit pipe and the amazing beard, agrees with you. He says, that is one of my biggest gripes about the trilogy. I love those movies, but that change with Aragorn irks me. We are not an echo chamber. I wanted to make sure that you guys have your opinion represented, but this is what fans have always done. And I think it's important we have these conversations. They may seem inconvenient with the arguments I think a lot of us are making, but I think what we're doing is what we're actually looking at is actual characters that Tolkien wrote and where they were supposed to be, which is very different than what we're seeing from Payne and McKay. Go ahead, Alasia.
So the thing that I think it comes down to, because Faramir was changed also quite a bit. I think that us saying that, like, we're okay, quote unquote, okay with the changes that Jackson made to Aragorn, say, for stylistic choices. The thing is, they didn't make him a beta. They didn't make him a wham in power kind of man. They're like, oh, I'm gonna be a timid little meek little mouse. No, Aragorn stood up and he led his men. He found hope. Like, he was still the leader of men that he needed to be. He didn't have, his changes were not politically motivated. They were like what European Lore just said. They were stylistic choices to fit a more like fast moving Hollywood film, if that makes sense. And I agree with you, the John Wayne take. I think I've never thought that way, but that's a really good way of saying it. It wasn't full of political ideology. It was, how can we advance the story to move maybe a little bit faster than, say, the books do.
Purple, did you have a take on that?
Yeah, absolutely. With the film, obviously, it's a different medium, but they made him more of a reluctant hero, I think would be the best way to give him. But it didn't detract from the character. It gave him a very interesting character arc throughout the three films. It doesn't diminish him in any way. And there were some other changes. I mean, the feud that he had with Boromir doesn't really exist in the books. And kind of little stylistic things. And he's a lot more... he's a lot well-traveled in the books as well. He's been with the Riders of Rohan, those sort of things. But none of these things that were changed in the film from the books diminish the character, and I think that's the key here.
And none of them served to damage, in my opinion, Tolkien or Tolkien's lore. One of the things, and again, I don't want to deify Peter Jackson. I don't. I thought his adaptations were some of the best we're ever going to get ever. There was obviously, like we're talking about it, there is absolutely room for all of these opinions, and I'm glad we're talking about them. I'm glad we're talking about them because, again, when we start looking at the Rings of Power, I think these conversations about accuracy to source material and Tolkien's intent is a very different conversation than I think we are having with the Rings of Power, where we have characters created to, in my opinion, serve ideological purposes. Let me get to this next super chat real quick. Again, Lyle, you're amazing. Thank you. It's for $10. Says, to continue, Jackson made Isildur a smirking, power-hungry moron, and not the man Aragorn should honor in order to make a more compelling arc for Aragorn's journey. I understand why Jackson did it. I think that's what it is. Mm-hmm. He did. I think though that arc, I think they like Purple and we've said, because we're dealing in cinematic terms, not in page terms, they needed to get through that sort of the history of setting up where the ring came from and then get into Frodo in the Shire, because they only had so much time. And I think that opening sequence where you have the voiceover by Galadriel talking about the history, and then you watch the battle and you've got Elrond there with the archers, and then you watch Isildur, be standing up alone after his father is killed by Sauron. I thought they did a really good job non-verbally of not having these characters use dialogue and really showing us what was happening. And then of course you did have Kate Blanchett's voiceover. I can understand where you're coming from, but I do think in cinematic terms it was pretty good. I do think that. What is your guys' take on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it just really works. It's like you say, it's a great opening scene, but you've got to it's that hook, isn't it? When you first start the film, you've got to draw the audience in immediately, and the changes that were made sense.
Yeah, and the hook. Now I don't know if we can say it or not. Purple. I think someone said it on my live stream. How this show starts. I think it's been said other places. The Rings of Power starts with a young Galadriel being bullied.
Yeah, that's what I was mentioning or talking about when it was actually I had it from Nedrotics, right? So he said it on his live stream last night, I think.
Yeah,
which is just insane to me because she's how many thousands of years old by this point?
Yeah, but that doesn't craft the narrative of men are either stupid or evil, Alasia. Get on board here. Wheel of Time taught us what? Say it with me, everybody. Men are either stupid or evil or both. And it would appear that, too much to my regret, and please understand, I take no joy in this. I wish we were getting a pretty good Lord of the Rings property, because I would love to have watch parties. I would love to have live shows afterwards talking about it. It's exhausting as a YouTuber to continually have your hopes dashed. It really is. And Purple can agree to that. European lore, you're slowly losing your mind like I am. We want a good property, but what we can't do is we can't legitimize mediocrity, and we can't legitimize, I think, what is ideology driven into our properties for the sole reason of destroying them.
And I just want to say one thing. I think what's important to keep about in mind about Jackson and his goals, they didn't come to the table with the mindset that Tolkien's a racist. He's an imperialist, all these things. They didn't come to the table with the mindset of like, we have to tear this guy down. Their goal was to elevate him up, even though they did have to make stylistic choices. I think that is ultimately a really important point to keep in mind.
Rosie Gamgee says it best. It's not toxic to have doubts about the Rings of Power. It's toxic to attack fans for having their concerns. And I will say this again. I said it in a video, I think it was a few days ago, and you guys can jump on this one. We got this huge charm offensive from all of these Tolkien sites that were given an all expense paid trip to go to Oxford to, be wined and dined. Everything was paid for, right? And when they sat down with the showrunners, they got to see 20 minutes of footage. And when they can't tell us what they saw, they can't tell us why they like it. But the messaging is that this is in really good hands with Payne and McKay. Now, I did a video the other day, like I said, where remember what the showrunners for this did. They attacked us as being racist within one day of that Vanity Fair article. You, me, anybody like Rosie Gamgee who had concerns about what we were seeing. We have never received an apology from those showrunners. We have never had Amazon disavow that statement. Instead, they're going to play this weird game where that didn't happen. Well, guess what? It did happen. And I, for one, am not going to forget it. Now, I don't expect you to kiss my ass, but what I expect you to do is go, you know what? We made a mistake. And they're not doing that. Am I being unfair, guys? What is your take on that?
No, my friend, you expect people in 2022 to actually have backbones and to be nice. Well, the world is full of orcs and goblins, and that is why I don't meet with people when I don't necessarily need to. And this is my take on the matter.
What do you think about that, Alasia? What is your take on that? I mean, have you forgotten do you think we should just forget that happened from Payne and McKay? Malaysia,
sorry, I'm a professional. Okay. I can unmute myself. No,
you and I both. Yeah.
No, I absolutely don't think we should forget that at all. And it's like, don't hold on to a grudge, but it's like you said, it came out not one day after our reaction to the trailer. So, they we heard others say, and I agree, and I'm sure we all came to this conclusion separately. They had those articles ready to go. They knew exactly what they were doing, and they knew exactly what was going to happen. They had those articles ready to go, and I can't remember which big YouTuber it was. It escapes my mind, but they went through and showed that a lot of those articles were literally word for word copyrighted,
Oh, yeah.
cut and paste from The Rise of Skywalker and The Last Jedi. They were
Yeah.
word for word the exact same thing.
I've done videos where I took the same things that they said about Doctor Who, Star Wars, Charlie's Angels, all the Terminator, Dark Fate. Like, it's all the same talking points. And I hear Purple laughing in her grizzled, I've been to this party before way. What's your take on this Purple
Oh,
Valkyrie?
absolutely, yes. If anyone's a fan of that's basically anything in the last 10 years, you will have had these accusations leveled at you, no matter what it was. So from Star Wars to Star Trek to Doctor Who to Ghostbusters, whatever it was, if you do not like the direction that they're heading, you're now the problem. Whilst this wasn't, unexpected from the Tolkien, side, it is disappointing because Tolkien has always been for everybody, and all the fans wanted, like you say, was a fantastic representation. We just wanted more Tolkien on the screen, because up until then it had been 20 years since the Lord of the Rings, and then obviously we had the Hobbit after.
Yeah, and I keep saying it, but I think people are going to look at Peter Jackson's much maligned Hobbit, which was way too long, in a whole different way after probably the first 3 minutes of what we're getting from the Rings of Power. Let me get to this super chat from Lyle. Dude, thank you. Really, this is for $10 says, and to finish, I think they are going to go that route with Galadriel and have her grow into the Elven Queen we know, much like Aragorn becomes king after a different journey in the book. This is a fascinating take. This is an interesting take. That may be true. So essentially what Lyle Hammock is saying is that they're going to take Galadriel and essentially repurpose Aragorn's story, where she refuses to be the Galadriel she could be. She wants to sow her wild oats. And despite canonically, correct me if I butcher this, she is already married by this time. She already has children by this time. And she is already established as a leader at this time. They're going to, again, girl power, strong women. Is that an unfair statement? Because I don't just want to drop these trite generosities. What's your take on this, Alasia?
No, I think that that's absolutely accurate. And it's interesting. I mean, that is an interesting take that they would just repurpose Aragorn's story. I go back to, so she was at the crossing of the ice. So she saw the bridge burn, the ship burning and the kinslaying. She saw all of that. So she was born in Valinor. And she crossed over and went back to Middle Earth, and saw many of her people die on the crossing of the ice. I have a feeling that, because we've heard that first episode is going to establish some sort of history for Middle Earth, yet they don't have access to that history. So this is going to be a history of their own making. So maybe she will have been born in Middle Earth and is going to be bullied by her big brothers. I don't know, but that's the issue, because by the time we get to she herself is half god, and she's been the handmaid, the lady in waiting to a goddess for how many thousands of years?
Thank you.
By the Second Age. So I'm sorry, bullied? A lady in waiting is not bullied by anybody. Thank you very much. And I don't think Melian would have stood for that. So I just that whole concept is so laughably bad to me. It's almost like, this can't be real.
Lyle Hammock, I get where you're going, and maybe for cinematic purposes from story, maybe this will be one of the more compelling story arcs, because again, we're dealing with 24 main characters. It would appear that the overwhelming majority of these characters are made up by Payne and McKay. And I'm going to jump to this, Alasia, and why it's relevant, and then we'll jump to your tweet, European Lore. So remember, if you want to scroll up a little bit, Alasia, remember those book covers that were released that had the images from the Rings of Power that they were putting on the Lord of the Rings trilogy? Alasia, why don't you just encapsulate who we thought this was and who it actually is? It's worse than we thought with them taking images that don't belong on the Lord of the Rings. This is not who we thought it was.
Okay, so if you go to the HarperCollins tweet about the release of the Fellowship of the Ring, the Two Towers, and the Return of the King, on Fellowship it's Galadriel, on Two Towers it's Elrond. This poster is on Return of the King. everyone rightly assumed that this is Sauron for all that he's got incredibly tiny hands. No, this is one of the made-up villains, the elf that's leading the orc band, whose name literally means daddy. This is not Sauron. This is a made-up elf from Payne and McKay's mind. This is not Sauron.
Yeah.
Daddy is on the front of Return of the King.
Again, we don't have a head count on the amount of characters. I should probably go through IMDb again and see what the updates are. But we've been looking for a lot of key characters that those with a lot of deep Tolkien lore, much deeper than mine, want to call out. And there's iconography that I think a lot of people have agreed to. And we've watched over time where they've bought these I would say people, especially from the University of Glasgow, whose specialty seems to be their degree seems to be focused on how can I ram my ideology into whatever is in front of me, whether it's a children's book or it's a movie from the 50s. I need to deconstruct it and take it apart so that only broken pieces are laying on the floor. And I have no idea how to put them together, but look what I've done. I've managed to destroy this thing that you love. Now they're doing it with Tolkien. European lore, what's your take on that real quick?
My take, I can provide you with one very interesting piece of trivia. Of course, the first orcs were not created by Morgoth, but he basically enslaved elves and he twisted them into orcs. But there was never ever in the history of Arda a fallen elf that would serve Morgoth or Sauron or any evil dark lord. They were either turned into orcs or they died in the fight for the good.
Yeah.
There was no Adar. There was no daddy who would fight against his own people.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, that's it. There's nothing else to be said. The elves hated Morgoth. End of story.
Lyle Hammock, you don't have to keep doing this, brother. Thank you. You could just send us chats and super chat and I'll address your complaints. So $5 says, all I'm saying is if the changes are done well, it could work. I agree. Here's the thing. I am 100% on your team. And I think Alasia and European Lore and Purple Valkyrie, you're right. I think I'm going to speak for all of you. If these changes were done well, it would work.
Absolutely.
But if what Ad says is true, then abandon all hope, ye who enter here. Hail to you. Again, Lyle, I take no joy in this. I really don't. We want to keep talking about these things because we are now at a different juncture in the marketing communications plan for Amazon. They realized that the use of the Tolkien fan sites was a complete and utter failure. What they're going to do next, we're starting to see where they're going to diminish what currently exists. They're starting to diminish Peter Jackson in the movies that he made. Where do we think that's going to go? Are they going to tear down Tolkien himself? Because I don't know where else they have to go, guys. I really, really don't.
Well,
I really don't know.
Technically, they've already tried, didn't they? They said that these are the stories that we think Tolkien would be writing when he's still alive. This is where perhaps he went wrong. He didn't have enough representation in his books. It was a fable for England, and we need more diversity. We need more brought into Middle Earth. So clearly Tolkien had it all wrong, according to them. And they've said this.
Yeah, they have. And I think the reason why it was said, because that was the driving force behind what Payne and McKay did, was how can we represent the underserved, underrepresented cultures in Middle Earth to hit our ESG scores, which I'm really tired of talking about, but they're not going anywhere. And we have to keep calling this stuff out. Let's get into this one. This is a tweet, and I know, European Lore, you have a certain amount of time you need to be here, but why don't you get into, you had a back and forth with this Sean Gunner, and I watched this morning, and why don't you talk about this in particular, because it underscores what we've been talking about.
Yeah, so I saw a tweet by Mr. Sean Gunner, who is the chair of the Tolkien Society, and apparently then should be very well versed in Tolkien lore and more things. But he has proved in the past that he wasn't really that much learned in Tolkien's life. The fact that he was referring to one of the showrunners, I don't know which one, that he was a Mormon, and that's why the show will be good, because he's religious, so he will understand that religious part of Tolkien. Well, Tolkien was, of course, Catholic, and those things, those two things are not really one and the same thing. But this tweet is about something else. This tweet is about an absolute ignorance of his own history. So there was a bloke who tweeted, "It tells you that you have no idea what are you talking about. The Lord of the Rings was created to be a mythology for the British. That was the intention. British are white people." And Sean Gunner responded to this by saying, "When some people insist their critiques of Lord of the Rings of Power aren't based in racism, British are white people." So I answered, "Can I somehow share my screen? Can you see it?
Yeah, go down to the bottom, hit share screen, pull it up, and I'll
Am I
bounce it
sharing?
on screen. Yes,
Yeah.
you are. You are sharing. Absolutely, brother. You're good. Yeah.
All right. So my response was, well, historically you are, because first the British Isles were inhabited by Celts, the Celtic population, who were then chased away or subdued by the tribes of Anglo-Saxons, Jutes, and so on and so forth, which came from the areas of today's Germany / Scandinavia, right? The Anglo-Saxons, and where's the problem? And then he asked, and it continues, and since then, and then I mentioned some other things, historical things, that Britain then had empire. That empire took some countries in the world, a lot of them had colonies all around the world, and brought some inhabitants of those colonies to Britain against their own will, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
But they were never the native population of Britain. And then he asked, and since then, so on and so forth. And I think that he must have deleted one of my comments here, because
Welcome to the club, buddy. I got all of my comments deleted
Oh.
on a live stream, so yeah.
Oh, he deleted the latest comment. Well, the latest comment that I had was that Tolkien never went further than to Middle Ages, pre-Middle Ages, when he was created Ada, and specifically with hobbits, they were based on the villages from the area of Cornwall from the beginning of the 20th century. And then I asked if he can imagine what the people from this area looked like, and I begged him to learn his own history. But that risk we see now, because it has been deleted, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So
And
that's that.
No, but Purple, you had an excellent take, because you're UK based and you brought up some demographic information that's relevant even now.
Yes, absolutely. So the last time that we had a kind of consensus was 2019. I believe there will be another one in the next couple of years. And the most common ethnic group in England and Wales was white, with a percentage of 84.8.
Hashtag too white.
Mm-hmm.
Inconvenient to the narrative. And Nathan Amanda Manethrin says, if they're creating a backstory for Galadriel, does that violate, and this is what I've been wondering, does that violate their agreement with the Tolkien estate? I thought they couldn't do anything that changes the story. Well, the way that I read it, so as long as somebody starts at point A, has it's written down, and ends up at point B, they can fill in the middle with whatever the hell they want. Now, have you guys heard any different? I've made a couple videos over these. I was actually rewatching my videos from like 4 or 5 months ago, and it's eerie how sadly right a lot of us were about where this was going. And I don't know. Is there anything that can prevent them from doing anything they want, so long as Galadriel ends up where she needs to be at the Second Age? I don't think so. I really don't think so.
I know that the Tolkien estate had veto powers, but thus far they haven't used them, so I wouldn't hold your breath.
Yeah.
They will not, because Christopher Tolkien is dead, and the rest of the family, they don't. It's my opinion that they don't care at all. They care about the big checks that they are getting, and that's all.
Yep.
Let me get to this super chat from Lyle Hammock for $5. Dude, you were on fire Don't make me send you another coffee cup. It's for $5. It says, I'm not saying they're reprising Aragorn's story. What I'm saying is she gets the same place, but like Aragorn goes a different route than canon. I think you may be right. And Lyle, I think this is a perfect time to bring this super chat in because again, it appears they can do anything they want, and they are in the Rings of Power. As long as Galadriel starts out at point A and ends at point B, they can make her go whatever weirdo loops they want, as long as she ends up where she's supposed to. And it doesn't violate what's written down. And that's the problem with the appendices, is that the appendices they don't have dialogue. They don't have a lot of information. It is basically that person was here, their child did this. Is that an unfair statement, European lore, that really it reads more like a genealogy and an annotated history than any type of novelization that they could draw from?
Oh, definitely. Even in many of the forwards to either the Silmarillion and the Unfinished Tales, sorry, and other publications that were posthumously published by his son. I'm sorry, I'm losing my voice.
That's okay.
Tolkien's son really warned any potential reader that this is not the Lord of the Rings. This is not a fairy story novel that you would read in one take for your own enjoyment as if you were watching a movie. No, you are reading a chronicle. You are you find yourself in a situation as if you walked in an old monastery and found an old script, and then another script, and then another script. And from those old scripts, you would then combine and compose the history of a world. So that's why it's more chronicle-like, it's more episodic than a novel such as The Lord of the Rings.
Mm-hmm.
This is a great comment from Warwick, and hail to you. Says, I'm having trouble wrapping my head around how this can be interpreted as a Tolkien story. Well, in the words of John McClane, welcome to the party, pal. Now, none of what we have seen so far, LOL, is going to add any value to the first or third age stories. I would agree with that. Alasia, what's your take on that?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, like I feel like we said this on your last live stream that we did that was Tolkien centric. Yeah. If they had just made this Lord of the Rings adjacent to, if they had made every single character was made up out of their own head, they were just like, this is a story that could be set in, if they wanted to play off the coattails that is Tolkien and Lord of the Rings, I'd be a lot less annoyed, but it's the fact that they're taking established lore and established timelines and established characters and utterly changing them, that's irritating. So no, I think a lot of us are having a hard time wrapping our heads around this.
The Untamed Life, this is someone I was on a live stream with. Hail to you, great to see you. Says, why would someone become the chair of the Tolkien Society without knowing about the person the society is based off of? Well, to me, because I have a tinfoil hat, it would because they're there for an ideological reason. That's my take on it. European lore, Alasia, Purple Valkyrie, you see it any different?
No, actually, this is happening all over the world. I remember the chief professor at the university I studied at, he taught American literature. And it just was found out just a couple of years ago that during the communist regime, because the Czech Republic, or at the time Czechoslovakia, was under the iron rule of the Soviet Union, there were, of course, many collaborants and many people who were working for the regime. And he was one of them. So imagine the irony. The man who worked for the USSR is now teaching American literature at university.
That's not a conflict of interest. And last stream, I unfortunately, I've been to the Czech Republic. It's beautiful. I've also been to Slovakia, which is kind of the Wild West, if we're honest about it.
It is.
I hung out in a medieval town and saw some really fascinating things that I didn't think would happen in the 21st century. But that's what happens when you go to communism, guys. You really sure you want to do this? I know I don't want to do it, but Yeah, and we have another super chat that, Lyle, you're amazing. For $20 US, thank you. It says, actually, European lore, we know that Morgoth enslaved and broke the minds of captured elves to the point where they told him everything. So, what would one of these tortured, broken elves do after Morgoth is gone? See, this is the good, deep lore conversations that I love that we're having. I think what sucks about this is we can't have it shown on screen to us or depicted in a Tolkien respectful way. We're going to have these conversations and probably polite disagreements among ourselves. What's your response to this one on European lore? And just let me know how you're doing on time.
Lamek, I am very sorry that I have to argue with you. You are a wonderful person, and I would love to have as much hope as you have. However, if you look at who Morgoth was, it was obvious that he was able to torture even elves to such an extent that they would, of course, tell him everything. And the second part of the comment, we are verging or we are venturing into the same territory into which all the influencers and the showrunners are venturing, which is Tolkien never specifically mentioned. You know, so if there was no mention of an elf that would work for a Dark Lord, that doesn't necessarily mean that there was one just because he wasn't mentioned. Do you know what I mean?
Hmm. Yes, I would rather err on the side of if the author says it didn't happen or implied that it wasn't there, that it didn't happen.
Yeah.
Don't
Yeah.
kind of fill in the gaps yourself and make things up, I think is the best way. But it is an interesting argument. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very much of the opinion. We got asked on our literary Soul Sisters if Tolkien ever talked about what was it, sports, and golf is mentioned in The Hobbit, and I think there might have been one other thing, but I'm of the opinion if Tolkien didn't write it down and Christopher never found a reference to it in the and it wasn't put in the 13 histories of Middle Earth and the Lord of the Rings that we have, it doesn't exist.
I would agree. And counterbalance that against the statements in the Vanity Fair article, which is that Payne and McKay were the only ones that could write the novel that Tolkien couldn't write. Now, I know we repeat these same damn points over and over again, but I think it's important because what we are facing is a narrative war. It is about how short is your attention span? How are you going to allow people to do what they did with Star Wars, with Star Trek, with Doctor Who, and call you toxic fans because you know your lore, you know who these characters are, you love those characters, and you don't want the changes they're making, which are only made for ideological reasons. And it would be different if the output or the actual show was good. It's not even good. It's I don't know. And then I wanted to talk about Doctor Who a little bit today, but Purple Valkyrie said, I don't even want to talk about this. You guys know what's going on with Doctor Who. Tell me it's not the same thing with the Lord of the Rings, guys. Let me get to this super chat real quick, and then Purple, I'm going to let you go crazy. This is from Taker610, good friend of this channel. Great to see you. For $5 says, Fear Elf Daddy. I guess it's okay if it's Eccleston from Thor 2. The world is full of orcs and goblins was a savage take, but oh so correct. You are absolutely right about that. European lore is savage, and that's why we bring him on the show. Hail to you, Taker610. Go ahead, Purple.
Yes, well, with regards to Doctor Who, I've got to admit I have tapped out. No, I did pretty much when the 13th Doctor came in, but I just have no interest in Doctor Who anymore. To me, it is now a franchise that has run its course, and I hope that the actor does well. I hope that the fans can get on board and get behind it, but I just have no faith in what the BBC can produce now.
I would agree with that entirely. And let me see. I want to make sure that I'm caught up on you guys. Okay. European lore, thank you for speaking up. You've been very generous with your time. This is one of these lucky happenstances where I'm lucky enough to bring in brilliant, cool creators who we don't all sound the same. We don't all have the same takes. European lore is one of them. I have so much gratitude to you, sir, for working with us today, for your takes, for your own passion in fandom. Please tell everybody where they can find you. If anybody can drop a link in the chat, I would love that. And what you're working on next, sir.
Thank you very much. I can already see that some awesome people are dropping links to the chat. You can find me on YouTube, the European Law, also on Twitter. And I am currently working as much as possible, very hard on getting a new camera so I can start doing my own live streams. And as soon as I start, I will be more than happy and honored to have you all, my friends, on my channel to talk about
that would be awesome.
some crazy things. And I am the mad Czech European, so
don't change, never change, man. You keep doing you do it really well. So.
And I thank you all. Thank you very much. Thank you, Salty Texas. Thank you, ATroubledGreen. Thank you, Purple Valkyrie, for having me. And I'm very much looking forward to seeing you again.
You too.
Great to see you.
Have a great day. Sir.
Thanks.
Thank
Bye.
you so much.
Bye.
This is a great thing. It's a great thing to start making content. We all start in the same place. We all start with one sub, and usually it's a friend. And you just keep at it. If you haven't started a channel, please consider doing it. Your voice here is needed. There are several people who I have found just doing keyword searches on the Rings of Power that have 3 subscribers, and I comment on their videos because I wish someone would have done that for me. You know, just keep paying it forward. And that's why a huge content creator like Heel versus Babyface came on my show, you know, and I'm eternally grateful for that. So let's just keep helping each other out in this community, because people like Amazon, Netflix, and Disney, boy, they really don't want us around, do they?
Yes, and that will be the next thing, and they've already kind of succeeded. You know, they are driving a wedge between fandoms. They are driving a wedge between channels that, you know, at heart all love the same thing. We all love Tolkien.
Yeah. Yep. And they're using the exact same methods that they did starting with Star Wars: The Last Jedi and Ghostbusters, guys. It's the same playbook. And once you see it, once you see it, you can't not see it. And they're doing it here. Lyle Hammock again for $10. Thank you. Says, also, did you forget Miglin, who betrayed Gondalorin to Morgoth? So the idea of this elf does have some precedent. Even if the story is new, it does have some book basis. I think it could be compelling. I want it to be compelling. I know what you're talking about here, and I'll allow you to speak to this. I think we're all saying the same things, but in different ways. This is exactly what we want. We want the compelling story. We want it to be based on the source material. But if you watched Wheel of Time and Rafe Judkins, who was a failed contestant on Survivor and produced some really mediocre Marvel shows that were canceled, they gave him Robert Jordan's 15-book fantasy series. Why?
Yeah.
And what was the output? Again, Payne and McKay, they're trying to sell these guys as having all these skills. People have even said that they wrote such a good Star Trek script that it was too Star Trek-y and no one would make it. I don't know if I believe that. All I know is what they produced, that it didn't even get their name on it. You know, all I know is they're associated with J.J. Abrams. And there is a tweet or a post that Neurotic made famous talking about no more comfort, no more this, no more that. Is it really a leap of tinfoil hat logic to go, you know what, these same guys who were the acolytes of J.J. Abrams, who was such a sponsor of the mostly peaceful burning down America summer we had a little while ago, that they wouldn't follow the same path as Rafe Judkins? What do you guys think about that? And again, Lyle, I'm on the same page with you, brother. I really am. I want it to be good. I just don't think it will be.
Yes, absolutely. We had a lot of hope, and we've talked about it. You know, when it was first announced, we were so excited that we were getting more Lord of the Rings. I remember, the first time it was announced. I think I was at a convention, and it was I think it was actually Billy Boyle who was talking about it. You know, he kind of let slip that there's this in the future. There's going to be this huge extravagant Lord of the Rings show coming. We didn't even know who was producing it at the time, but just the idea of it just lit up the crowd. You know, that everybody was talking about it, and they were pressing him for details, and he couldn't give any more details. But yeah, we really wanted it to be good, but at the same time, we're not going to pretend that what they're giving us is going to be amazing if it's not. And everything we've seen so far indicates that what we're getting is a very bland bastardization of Tolkien's work.
And for those of you who are Wheel of Time fans, you could have we could have been having a conversation about Wheel of Time, couldn't we?
Mhm.
And there are a lot of YouTubers out there. Disparu talks about it too, and respect to you, Disparu. It's the same thing, and we're not rage farming. And I got to be honest with you guys. I've been a YouTuber for about a year and a half. I have no idea how the hell to ride the algorithm. I have no idea what I'm doing. I just make videos, and sometimes they work and sometimes they don't. And Purple Valkyrie, are you some mastermind criminal behind the scenes that knows how to exploit the algorithms here on YouTube? Or are you just making content that people want to see that's authentic?
You know what? I don't even think I'm doing that. I'm just making content that I enjoy, and I hope other people enjoy. I'm just here to have fun. But if you know, we can connect with like-minded people, that is the goal. With YouTube, you know, we want to bridge the gaps. We want to talk to people. We want to have these discussions. And you talked about it before, you know, where fans used to get together and have these kind of good-natured arguments, and that's what I miss. I don't want the animosity between fans.
We used to have these arguments when I was in the 3rd grade when we were playing 2nd edition Dungeons and Dragons. And we, you know, could this wizard do that? Could a rogue do that? Who would win this? Who would do that? That's the fun stuff, right? I mean, it's the good stuff. And yeah, it would get heated. But in this case here, I don't think they're dividing the Tolkien fandom is working at all. I really, really don't. And go ahead, Alasia, which comment was that?
It's the only way for Tolkien to survive the Amazon adaptation is for European academia, the university, to insist that Amazon's adaptation, didn't even has a dedicated purpose. Okay, no, I'm sorry. I will take anyone to task who thinks that the university is going to stand up for Tolkien's work. The university has been deconstructing, tearing down, and obliterating Tolkien's work for the past 20 years. They've been doing this long before Amazon even, this was a gleam in Bezos' eyes. So no, I'm sorry. The university system is probably going to be cheering on the deconstruction of Tolkien even more fervently than the freaks on Twitter. The university system is responsible, in my humble opinion, because I was indoctrinated. I was so steeped in it, I couldn't see the forest for the trees. The university system is responsible for a lot of this SJW crap because we were in our safe spaces and no one could question what the professors were doing to these young kids. So trust me when I say the university system is responsible for starting the deconstruction on Tolkien.
Safe spaces. Safe spaces. You know what safe spaces were in the 80s? When you managed to outrun the people that were trying to kick your ass and you hid in an alley.
Yep.
That's a safe space. When I went to college, we didn't have them. They tried to have them, and we got in a lot of arguments. I've said it many, many times before. I was there when this political correctness crap started. There are people I went to college with who are our professors at major universities who teach all of these things, especially from a history and women's studies perspective. This is a broad statement, but they are some of the most unhappy people I have ever known. And they have to keep pushing this because they have nothing left but this bitterness they keep pushing. And it hasn't turned out well for them. I'm just one person. Maybe there's a very happy gender studies major out there who's not spitting bile. Maybe there is, but and I'm talking about several dozen people. That's been my experience. Go ahead, Purple.
Misery loves company, as they say. But yeah, for me, I would say libraries were safe spaces for people who love to read.
Yeah.
It's a shame, but I think eventually we're going to get back to it. And you know, people say, "Are these fandoms ruined?" No, they can never take away what has already been written. Nobody can ever take away the Lord of the Rings, Tolkien's work. You can always go back and pick up a copy, preferably not the ones that Amazon are pushing. Get ones with decent covers, but the books will always be there to fall back on.
Yeah. Faye, see, I have to disagree with you. The level of crap that I heard from literature professors, they're the ones who started it. The literature professors are the ones who started the avalanche. It's almost hard to put into words. You have to be sitting in those rooms to understand the level to which literature professors are encouraging that every single woman in Jane Austen's mythos is gay. Every single one of them. Emma has been completely destroyed for me. I'm never going to be able to read it again. It just makes me angry. Everyone in Moby Dick is a queer or transgender. Everyone, pick your poison. They go out of the literature. I don't know what it is about the English department, but they are all freaks. And I have said this before, and I'll say it again. They sit around, they think it's funny. They sit around and say, oh, we just make shit up. And no one challenges us because my opinion's right and that a person's right. Their professors don't challenge them. Their peers don't challenge them. No one in the literature department or the English department challenges each other, and they are allowed to say whatever they want and they get away with it.
And they're rewarded. I mean, academia was like that. And that's part of the reason I decided not to become a professor and walked away from that, was because the amount of ass kissing that you had to do, even back in the 90s, the mid to late 90s, I just didn't want to do it, because a lot of those departments and making it through the food chain of academia was not about your skill. It was not about even your understanding. It was about joining different people's cults of personality and harems in some case. And I use that word deliberately in order to get through these academic circles. I am absolutely convinced it's the same way now, if not worse. So let me shout out Zaxx real quick. Zaxx was supposed to be on the show. He unfortunately can't make it, brother. You do you. We miss you. Great to see you, Zaxx. So go ahead, Purple.
Great to see you, Eunice. And just it's been done with Tolkien as well. We saw it recently. They were arguing that the relationship with Frodo and Sam was much deeper than a simple, very deep brotherly platonic friendship. They were adamant that they were a couple, and it was mental gymnastics that they were going through to push this idea.
It looks like Faye is clarifying, and I don't want to step in the middle of two truly, and I say this unironically, strong, independent women. Like, I love the fact that we are having this conversation, and I, as a guy, can just sit back and let the conversation unfold. And Faye, I wish I could give you your voice in this. You should reach out to us, because I think it would be fascinating to have a conversation about some of this, just talking about lore, and then how the hell do we fix this now? How the hell do we carve a little corner somewhere where we can have not a Tolkien safe space, but a place where there is there's no graffiti, there's no deconstruction. The work exists, has a work, and doesn't need smaller minds with ill intent to come in and tear it apart. So Faye says Tolkien scholars, not university literature professors. So there you go. And I don't know.
I think the older generations are very much are what Faye is saying, is that they hold to a higher standard. But what is sad is that they're retiring. They don't want to take on PhD students anymore. I've had the professors that I would have wanted to work with on my PhD. They're like, we're really sorry, we're heading into retirement. We're not taking any more students. And the people that I have to choose from now are not much older than me. And they're like, if you don't talk about race and gender in your dissertation, we won't let you graduate. So I think the old bastion is slowly slipping away. And it just seems like more, if you look at the Tolkien Society conference that they hold every year in Oxford, and look at the titles of those papers, oh, it just makes you sick to your stomach. And that's worldwide. Those are scholars from all over the world. It's not just Oxford. That's an international conference. And again, academic conferences are a big deal. They are a big deal. And so it's what's sad to me is that the old guard is slowly slipping away. And now we just have these younger and younger people coming in with this ideology. And I think at one point it is just going to be a solid wall of ideology and indoctrination.
It is. And spoiler alert, I happened to go to a college in the 90s which went bankrupt because it was, their motto was, we are the boot camp for the revolution. Oh, that's a true story.
Good Lord.
The only reason I went there is I was an ignorant kid, and this is back before the internet, and I sent off a bunch of applications to colleges. They were the ones who gave me the biggest scholarship because I was poor. I was working multiple jobs going to community college, and that's how I went to school. And I went to school with some of the most leftist radical lunatics. And none of what's happening now surprises me. What's difficult for me is re-experiencing and seeing this again, because spoiler alert, what this does is destroy the system it infests. And the college let these people take over, and it destroyed it.
Yeah, that's why I will scream rooftop, stop sending your kid to school.
That's why we bring this up. I'm not going to make this an ideological statement, but you can understand maybe why it's occurring in other places other than our entertainment. Interesting. Let me get to this super chat from Psychodwarf9 for $5. Hail to you. He says, real question. A name for my upcoming YouTube. Thinking Tales from the Body Shop. Thoughts? Purple Valkyrie, what's your take on that? Tales from the Body Shop.
I absolutely love that.
I love that.
I'm so happy that Psychodorf has decided to join YouTube. This is amazing. I've been lucky enough to have him on a couple of shows in the past, and he has some fantastic takes. He is one of my great friends on YouTube, and I've known for quite a while, and he really does have some fantastic takes. So I'm incredibly excited, and I love that name. Do it.
Yeah, I don't know who you are, but I like that name. It's really cool.
I know. And depending on what context it is, I'm assuming it's automotive. You could come up with a really cool logo. That would be pretty sweet. And I'm hoping it's not a cannibal thing, but I'm not judging. So just to put that out there. So, and there's our good friend. That is Steve, Prophet of the Dragon, someone who when I first started doing live streams with, we would talk about Wheel of Time. It's great to see you. We do a lot of little sub projects. It's great to see you. Says, what are we all looking more forward to? Leandrin's dark side or Galadriel's warrior side? Yeah, I don't really want either of them, to be honest with you. Of course, that's a reference to again, I would really like, and this is just my opinion, if Alasia, you and Faye would actually get on a live stream, and I will facilitate that, because I think it would be great to see this conversation continue. And if I move past it, Faye and Alasia, it is not because I don't think it's not an important conversation. We just have a limited amount of time for this show. And there's a lot that I wanted to get to. This is not going to be a 4-hour stream. We're going to go about 2 hours. So please reach out on social media. Contact me via email. It's in there if you guys would like to have a greater conversation, because I'm not volunteering you, Malaysia. I just think that we are not shutting off the voices the way, say, Tolkien fan sites and societies are. So please, thank you. Let's see here. What else do we have? I just need to catch up here and make sure that, here we go. We got Lyle Hammock, and he jumps in and says, I have to head out. I enjoyed the debate and discussion in this toxic fandom. I love you guys, even though we don't all agree. God bless you, and see all y'all later. It's kind of how it works. It's how it always used to work. Nobody had a peaceful protest. Nobody needed to call each other an istophobe. No one to get it ad hom attack. We've always disagreed in our fandoms. We absolutely always have. And hail to you, Lyle Hammock. Really, love to you, Mrs. Hammock, and the little Hammock as well. So we got another super chat here. This one is from Silverlock. Great to see you. For $4.99 and he says this to a troubled green. You go, girl. There is a reason I suggest everybody should pick up an actual dictionary. They're working on changing everything. Yes, they are. By physical media. I forget who I was listening to. I think it was George the Giant Slayer that says one of the things that they're upset about with Peter Jackson and a lot of us who own physical media is that they are actively endeavoring to make the past fit the narrative that they are creating. They are seeking to replace what was with a different version of something that suits the interests of a very few amount of people. I will just say that. And I never thought in my lifetime I would be seeing the equivalent of James Bond villains in charge of everything. But here we are. Hail to you. Absolutely correct, Silverlock. And I just want to make sure I am caught up. I am not. Here we go. Let me get to this last. And I thought Lyle Hammock, you left. He said, I understand that. And I think redemption for an elf who has truly had his Fae or soul twisted by Morgoth could be a compelling story. I agree. In the hands of good storytellers. Ronald D. Moore? Peter Jackson? Rafe Judkins? No. Payne McKay? No. That's where I'm coming. Let me get to this super chat again from Psychodwarf9. Says, Salty, I've been military, homeless, tower jock, mechanic, to name a few. That's what's on deck. Roger that, man. I have also been up. I've been down. I have been all around in my own way. So I have respect for people who have what's called resilience. Now, that can be a dirty word, especially when used from an ideological perspective, but it was something that up until, I would say, probably the very early millennials was there. You had to be resilient. You had to fix your own things. No one was going to come along and make it better. But hail to you, Psycho Dwarf Wine, and you're preaching to the choir on that one. And we're getting a lot of interesting back and forth. I'm going to go ahead and pivot to another article. Did you have any last comments on the Rings of Power, maybe before we just press on to another? Well, yeah, let's just do this. So we'll start winding down. And this goes back to what I was referencing, and I think we're all seeing it. The mainstream media is now doing the business of reducing or trying to diminish our love of Peter Jackson's trilogy. And it is not to build up the Rings of Power, because in my opinion, the Rings of Power cannot be built up because it is so different from what we expected. If you watch Wheel of Time, you know what I'm talking about. So instead, this is what they're doing us. And these are the movies that they want us to believe are better than Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings. Now, I'm going to ask you guys, what do you think? Pirates of the Caribbean is a better franchise than Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings.
Now, hold on. Not that I don't
You
love...
toxic fans. What are you doing watching Peter Jackson? You should be watching how many? 8? Are there 8 of them? Pirates of the Caribbean? And now they won't even hire Johnny Depp. Just what do we think? Yay or nay? What's your quick take on this?
When I want a good giggle,
nonsense?
I will watch Pirates of the Caribbean. When I want to feel epic and inspired and go get my sword, I watch Lord of the Rings. Thank you very much.
Yeah, the Purple, what's your take on this? Come on, man. What's your take on this one? Purple, you might be muted. Did I lose Purple? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yep.
Oh, sorry.
I'm here. Sorry.
No, it's okay. What's your take? What's your take on this whole Pirates of the Caribbean thing?
I think whoever wrote this needs to take a long, hard look at their lives.
I mean, I liked the first. I only really liked one movie, and that was the first one. And it's popcorn. It's Twizzler fare. That was bing bam boom explosions.
Sweet and cute.
Yes, it was sweet and cute. You've got Johnny Depp doing his best. Oh God, what's his name from the Rolling Stone? Keith Richards, the pirate impression. The rest of the movies I don't ever need to see again. So remember, these are the franchises that are better than the Lord of the Rings. Now, this could result in shots fired. The Harry Potter series are better than Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings because they tackle heroism from a naive perspective. I'm going to do this. Alasia, I'm going to let you come at this. What do you think about this statement?
This one I would struggle with maybe a tiny bit. At the end of the day, I would always choose Lord of the Rings, only because, I don't know, there's something about Lord of the Rings, and I think that this might get down to one, a generational thing, and two, a preference thing. I didn't get into Harry Potter until the 4th movie was coming out in theaters, so I got on that train real late. But I feel like that the Harry Potter movies are forgettable. They don't stick with you the same way. Like, I don't need them to carry on. Whereas I watch Tolkien or I read Tolkien and I'm inspired to go do something. With Harry Potter, I'm like, oh, that was a good story, and I move on with my day. But I feel like Harry Potter could be a little bit of, and it's also, some people think the movies are trash and the books are so much that they butchered the books. My mom loves them both equally. So I don't know. That one I would struggle with, but Harry Potter, there are people now that they grew up with Harry Potter and Harry Potter is their Lord of the Rings because they aged with Harry Potter. Yeah. I didn't really do that. And I'm like, it's a fun story. You'd like it. Just a story of good and evil and defeating evil. It's whatever. But with Tolkien, it's like, no, this is a story.
Yeah. What's your take on this, Purple?
Yes, I think so as well. I think I preferred the books over the films, but I will give J.K. Rowling, credit for being so kind of, I suppose, tight-fisted with her work. She oversaw all of the films, so there wasn't much deviation from the books, and I think that played a great favor towards them, but also it did introduce a whole new generation into loving to read again.
Yep.
So I actually did like Harry Potter. I've got to admit, at least the books. The films I could take or leave.
Same here.
We're seeing an interesting diversity of opinion, and those of us, those who say that we have nothing but echo chambers over here are entirely wrong. I mean, there are people who can't stand Harry Potter, and there are people going, it's pretty good. And I liked the books quite a bit. I came to them late. I started them after the first movie came out because I was like, this is a kid's story. Why would I read it? Because I'm cool. And I read it, and I was like, I get it. And I saw every Harry Potter movie in the theater whenever it came out because I thought cinematically it was very well done. It had fantastic scoring and music, and I really did like the principal actors. And come on, Snape.
Yeah.
Talk about an incredible character in the books, but also on the screen. To me, I don't think you can compare Lord of the Rings to the Harry Potter movies. I think they are very different things. I think they are equal in their own ways, but that from a Western canon, archetype story, true deep Anglo sort of history with a well-crafted mythology and incredible epic battle sequences. Peter Jackson's trilogy stands all on its own. The charge of the Rohirrim at Minas Tirith, that scene alone, and I recognize it's CG, but the way those movies moved me is very different than Harry Potter. I was following Harry Potter and Hermione and the ugly redheaded kid, all through those movies. And
I take exception to that.
Rupert Grint, no disrespect, sir. I was following through those movies, and it was an enjoyable experience, but it was a forgettable one. And even the conclusion, which was powerful, it really was. I wasn't left with the same feeling as Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings. So,
and it's
I don't
it's
agree with
surprising
this
they're even.
either.
I just find it surprising they've even included that since J.K. Rowling has been canceled, 4 or 5 times now. So I find it odd they're even including that.
Yeah, they removed. We did that on the show, Purple, didn't we? A couple weeks ago, they removed it off the Queen Elizabeth 70-year jubilee, the longest reigning modern monarch. They removed it from the top 100 books to be released in her 70-year reign.
Rowling and Tolkien were both absent from said list. Yes.
Yeah, but a lot of books about communism, women, trans narratives, and how oppressive capitalism is on that list. Funny how that may work. Yeah, we're triggering a lot of people with this Harry Potter stuff. Okay, so let's see. There are 3 left. There are 3 franchises left that they say are better than, and I don't remember what they are. So my surprise is genuine, that are better than Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings. Okay. Indiana Jones, adventure well done with a swashbuckling twist. I'm going to kick this one to you first, Purple. How do you stack up Lord of the Rings against Indiana Jones?
Well, to me, as much as I do love Indiana Jones is the pulp hero. He doesn't compare to high fantasy. I wouldn't even put them in the same list, to be honest. As fun as the Indiana Jones films are, and there's only 3 of them, let's remember. They're not Tolkien, they're not deep, but they are, again, good popcorn films.
Yeah. Alasia, what's your take on this?
I think Aragorn would punch Indiana Jones in the mouth for taking so many women as he did. I think he'd be very aggravated that he couldn't find one to be loyal to and just stick with it.
Maybe the problem is in the Indiana Jones. Maybe the problem is the women. Oh, we can't say that now. Can we?
That's true. That's true. That true.
Yeah. Everybody talking about how hard it is to find a good man. And you know what? It works the other way too, you guys. Give me a break. You dudes know what I'm talking about, right? In chat, I'm not the only one, right? So, yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, I wouldn't even. It's again, this to me is I would lump in the same category as Pirates of the Caribbean. It's fun, it's quick, it's fast. I'll have maybe a little laugh. It's like you have a couple awe-inspiring moments, but Indiana Jones didn't inspire me to go write my own stories. Indiana Jones was just like, I want a a good divestment from reality for a few minutes. I'm going to watch, and I'm a historian, so I'm going to go watch this really cool swashbuckling film. That's kind of it.
Yeah. Yeah. And my take on this is, as I actually went as an 11-year-old boy to go see the first Indiana Jones movie in the movie theater. I saw it probably 6 times that summer. Because that's how movies used to work. A big movie would come out, it would stay in the theater for months, and people would go see it again and again and again because, you know, VCRs were just coming out. They were wicked expensive. And yes, dinosaurs still walk the earth, but it was an incredibly powerful movie. I don't think Indiana Jones, again, you can put it up against high fantasy. I think you're comparing apples to steak. You know, you can eat both of them. One is an apple and one is a beautiful thing that, when well put together, is an absolutely magnificent, filling meal that you leave the table with utterly satisfied. Indiana Jones is a great movie. It absolutely is, but it is not in the 3 movies. I'm going to be honest with you. Temple of Doom is not my favorite. I was
hate Temple of
disappointed
Doom.
when I saw it in the theater. A lot of people were bored, and I was there. Now, it's fun to watch now, and it's better than every other damn thing that's come out lately. Indiana Jones 3 was great. It was cute with Sean Connery as Indy's dad. And then, of course, that's where the franchise ends. And there certainly is no 4th movie, and there will never be a 5th movie. Let's all get on that boat, guys. So what I think is fascinating, and this is why I love our chats, this one actually has argument. The trilogy that is not mentioned in this article, The Godfather. Now, I would say the first 2 movies, yes. I am still not a fan of the 3rd movie. I understand why it was made. Again, it's not high fantasy, but I would say if we're going to compare franchises, having Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings here, having The Godfather there, I would say that would be a worthy conversation. So very good call, Bobek Goruchik. So what's your guys' quick take on that? Is The Godfather just a guy thing, or do you have respect for what Scorsese did with his trilogy?
I like The Godfather for what they are, but I do think they are definitely guy films. There's not a guy that I've ever met who doesn't love The Godfather trilogy.
It's freaking awesome, guys. Come on. What's your take, Elijah?
You're gonna never invite me back on this stream. I've never seen The Godfather. So
I recommend it. I really do. It's a very well crafted cinematic.
Yeah, no, I've heard. I know. It's just I've never. Again, there are a lot of things that I've never seen. So
no, we're not going to shame anybody for their fandom being different. It's a recommendation, and I just want to encourage anybody who hasn't seen The Godfather. You know, it's an experience.
I feel like it's just one of those cult classic things that I just need to sit and do, like Schindler's List. Like, you know what I mean? It's just one of those things I should have under my
Schindler's List. No, don't watch Schindler's List. Yeah, sorry, that's just my opinion. Watch The Godfather. Schindler's List you can put off for a rainy day, but that's just my opinion. Just saying. Maybe that's controversial. Psycho Dwarf 9. This is a home run. This is a walk-off game-winning home run. He says Indiana Jones is meatloaf, not steak, but satisfying.
That's a good way of putting it.
Very, very, very well said. Let's move along. What other crazy stuff? Okay, now remember, this is the top 5 list. We're only at 3. What is even better than Indiana Jones? And certainly better than Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings. Here we go. The reveal is the Back to the Future trilogy is better than Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings because it's uncomplicated. It's
the same story told 3 times.
It is pretty much just a rinse and repeat. It's a skipping record. And I love Marty McFly. I love Doc Brown. I love the DeLorean, but I saw the original Back to the Future when it opened up. It was a big deal back in '85. Was a mind-blowing movie. No one had ever seen that before. But by the middle of the 2nd movie, you're like, yeah, I've seen this one before. What's your take on this? I'll start with you, Purple Valkyrie, on this one.
Well, I'm bitter about Back to the Future because we never got our hoverboards that they promised us.
Among many other things, it's true.
Yes. I like Back to the Future. You know, they are fun films, especially the first one. I think is great. But can you really compare it to Lord of the Rings? No, not really, because as I said, to me, the trilogy is the same film told 3 times with slight variations.
I
Mhm.
agree. Alicia, what's your take on
I've
this?
I've really only seen, I know I've seen the others, but I've only seen the first one like beginning to end and like absorbed it. So but it is, I mean, again, it's a cute, sweet little laugh. It's not inspiring.
Yeah.
It's a good little moment. It's an hour and a half of good escapism. That's it. There's nothing grandiose about it. There's nothing epic or deep about it. No. Why is this even a conversation? Sorry. Back to the Future, I would yeet this from the list very fast.
Yeah, I mean, it's so hard because, you really can't start classic 80s movies. It would be too high fantasy. I think it's a disingenuous argument. I think a better argument would be, let's look at the Conan franchise and compare to Lord of the Rings. Let's look at, something like that, as opposed to,
Yeah,
oh, look, there's a
Dragonheart
time
or
travel movie. Yeah,
yeah, something
yeah,
Willow
yeah.
even.
yeah. So I honestly don't know, you guys, what the number one is. And you're going to be so remember, this is the top movie that is better than Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings trilogy, according to the most trusted news site for entertainment journalism, of course, comic book resources, and that would be Planet of the Apes is better
Good.
than
Gross. Excuse me?
As a franchise, or are we talking just the 3 films, or
They say all of it. It's an important purple. It's an important social commentary in action on the near future world. So apparently CBR is planning for the world to be overrun by genetically modified creatures that are going to enslave and murder us all. What do they know that I don't? Let's start with you on this, Alasia.
Again,
Planet of the Apes. Let's just say all of them.
I haven't seen them because I think they're dumb. Sorry, I don't mean to like annoy your chat, but I've never seen, because that just is like the dumbest premise on the planet. And I was always like, why would I watch this? This is campy to a whole other level. So I don't even know. I have no comment because I have no desire to see these movies. Like none.
What's your take, Purple?
Well, I mean, I like Planet of the Apes, especially the 1968 one with Roddy McDowall. I thought that was a good film. I love the design, and I like the concept behind it, but I wouldn't say it really stacks up against Lord of the Rings. And to me, if this is the best that they can come up with, I would have added to this list the Dark Knight trilogy. I would have added the Man with No Name trilogy.
Oh yes, there's an argument to be made for westerns, but again, westerns, because in some ways a very good western is the same story and archetype, has high fantasy, and I would love to have that conversation sometime.
But yes, I think whoever wrote this, go home, you're drunk.
Yeah, no kidding. And I think it's telling that Star Wars isn't on here because
You stole what I was going to say. You stole it. Take it. Run with it, Alasia.
Which trilogy would you choose? Which era would you choose? Which one are you going to prop up? If you choose the original, then you're admitting that you don't think that the new one is, but they have to push the new one because that's what Kathleen Kennedy wants to push. So, I think it's incredibly telling that Star Wars is not on this list.
Let's continue at this point because Shield Wall of Dragon said the same thing. We were all thinking, why isn't Star Wars on this list? There could be an argument made. There really could. And we are talking about Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi, which don't need numbers because those are the only Star Wars movies that exist to me, really. Also, Star Trek. There was there 8 original cast member movies? 7 movies, maybe. Then we can exclude the TNG stuff. They're good popcorn fare, some of them, but not the highlight to me cinematically of what Star Trek was on the big screen. let's have a conversation. Why did they why do we think briefly they didn't include Star Wars and Star Trek on this list? Why didn't they do that?
Probably because they're not particularly great writers, I would imagine.
Fair.
This whole list is very bizarre because they haven't even kind of kept it to the same genre that Lord of the Rings would fall in. This, this covers sci-fi. This covers crime. We've got we didn't even have a father on, did we?
No, we had a whole lot of weird stuff, and it seemed to have been written from somebody who maybe had a very limited iTunes movie buy list and maybe have a very, very limited life experience.
Yeah.
Just because I'm gonna play the old man Corey card, and I'm going to, and I don't care. And this is the third time the Thad that shouldn't be said this, so I'm going to give him the attention he wants. He says, how does this list not have the Omen trilogy on it?
Yeah.
Now, Purple, you're a big horror fan. Let's do CBR's work for them.
Okay.
How would you say the Omen racks up against Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings?
I still think it doesn't compare, but I think the Omen trilogy would have a, more, you could argue it belongs on the list more than perhaps some of the others that they've listed, including Planet of the Apes, considering these aren't technically trilogies. Anything that goes past 3 films, I don't think they should have been included. But we could have had Mad Max trilogy before the reboot. True. That could have been included.
Yeah. What do you think, Alasia? Why do you think Star Wars and Star Trek were left off this list?
Because I think right now they're too divisive. I think that pushing one thing or the other will highlight what they are either trying to hide or trying to push, if you know what I mean.
I do.
You can't include either of those particular fandoms without choosing it basically a side, I think. And if the goal of this narrative is to undo what has been done in order to push what is in the present, Kathleen Kennedy has made it quite plain that I think that the original trilogy is going to be remade. So if you say the original trilogy is as good as Jackson's Lord of the Rings, then you're going against, I would say, Lucasfilm and the media doesn't do that.
Yeah. Why I think they didn't bring up Star Trek, Star Wars is because they are actively in the middle of destroying it and deconstructing the hashtag patriarchy and problematic characters. They're busy inserting their ideology into it to take it apart and then turn it into a platform. Now, those are the words that came from Kurtzman himself, that Star Trek is a platform. Star Wars is a platform. And I think we all knew that. It slammed us in the face like a bat in The Last Jedi. And that is why the last thing they're going to do is call out these very series that they are in the middle of deconstructing and reformulating to be ideological tools, which is exactly, in my opinion, what they're doing to Tolkien's Lord of the Rings. So this is why we have these live streams. This is why we talk about things. That's why I think it's important to have a couple laughs, because these are the lunatic takes we're getting from the trusted establishment media on what is even better than Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings. The problem is we're not nearly as stupid as they think we are, and we are fighting back. And it is not easy to fight back, but the options of giving in or collaborating are simply unpalatable to me. And I'm not going to do it. I'm just not. So nice try, CBR. But I'd say you really struck out on that one. My God. And the chat has been absolutely amazing. Amanda Manethrin says this list was made by a 19-year-old who has only seen 6 movie franchises. I would like to think that, but I think it's even more nefarious than that, Nathan. And then, of course, we have Warwick dropping saying what we already did. Star Wars isn't on the list because they successfully devalued it. They made this ranking with the goal of comparing Lord of the Rings to other franchises that still have some goodwill. And you can bet they will be deconstructing those same franchises as well. So What have we got here? Amanda Manethrin. Hey, everybody, don't forget to give this panel a huge thumbs up. Please give us a thumbs up. We try and bring you a different kind of content on YouTube, and I am very honored to say that I am now at almost 2,400 subscribers, which is it's baffling. And I want to thank you in the chat. You're the ones who make that happen. Thank you so much for liking the videos, for commenting on the videos. Thank you for being here today. Thank you very much for the super chats. And thank you for your awesome takes in here. And even if we don't agree, please understand, if I engage with you, it is not to talk down to you. It is simply because I want to give you my own takes. And I wish we could have a bi-directional communication, because I would love to get your takes as well and to see your face when we're having these things. So means a great deal to me. You guys are absolutely fantastic. So let's go ahead and let's see what Faye has to say here. That's why it's important for people to read books and to own the physical copy, to own a physical copy. Ebooks can be changed. And the more knowledge you have, the harder it is to manipulate people. We're going to start winding down. I'm going to start with a troubled green. First of all, I want to say thank you. This has been a wonderful live stream. I had so much fun, you guys. Where can people find you, Alasia? What do you got going on the rest of this week?
So you guys can find me on my YouTube channel, The Troubled Green. Also Instagram. I'm taking a brief break from Instagram. I just need to detox for a little while, but also Twitter as well. My I've been neglecting my Bookstagram account, which is a Troubled Green's library, but I will be starting to post content over there very soon again. I have a live stream coming up this Saturday at 10:30 Central with my co-conspirator, The Untamable Life. We're talking about Numenor in the Second Age from the Unfinished Tales. That's Literary Soul Sisters. And then my Sunday chill stream at 7 p.m. Central. I hope I will have a surprise guest on this weekend. It'll just be the two of us. We will see if that comes to fruition. Just keep an eye on my Twitter. I will be announcing that when I can. And yeah, I just want to say thank you for having me on. I love doing these streams and I love having these conversations. So I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of your hump day.
I agree. And Shield Wall Dragons, I couldn't have said it better. Alasia is on fire these streams. It is absolutely true. And you don't need me to mansplain it. I'm just going to say, as one content creator to another, it is fantastic to watch you develop the skills and to be such an important part of these conversations. I am extraordinarily grateful to get to work with these really strong, independent women like a Troubled Green and Purple Valkyrie. Purple Valkyrie, what have you got going on? Where can people find you?
Yes, thank you for having us today. This was a fantastic stream and great to talk to European Lore and Alasia, obviously. So thank you. You can find me on Rise and Shine with Purple Valkyrie. I will be back later on this evening. It's the monthly true crime show that I do. So we'll be talking cults this evening. And then I will be back on Friday.
That's fantastic. I love that show. You guys go subscribe to Purple Valkyrie if you haven't already. Check out those awesome true crime shows. They get a little creepy and weird. It's not necessarily my thing, but I do like watching the chats because people are really kind of into this stuff. I cannot wait. Faye, thank you for the compliment. Says people are awesome, have diverse minds and diverse ideas. So that is why it is important to debate, to learn. Thank you for the stream. And you are very welcome. You guys, I always say this. And thank you, Nathan, that the chat is so much smarter than I am. I am a chimp with a mic, and I get to have smart women come in and help me make sense of things. So Nathan, great to see you. Can't work with you again. You all can find me, I believe I'm on Yelling at Parked Cars tomorrow night on Comics Division channel. Also, I believe we're going to be having a Friday live stream on Zaxx channel. And then I probably have something else going on right now, and I have no idea what that is. So because I am actually this disorganized, guys. So thanks, everybody. If you haven't, again, please subscribe to A Troubled Green, to Purple Valkyrie. Thank you for being here. A huge thank you to European Lore. I hope you guys have an absolutely fantastic rest of the week. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.
As ever, this is Salty Texas C. I am Corey DB. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you've seen and heard, please hit that thumbs up button. If you haven't subscribed, I'd love to have you on board. That way you know, and we have things like live streams, which we are going to be doing every Tuesday evening. Take care. I hope you're having a great 2022.